Beetles by Howen, Leilani, and Rose. We went to the Oxford Natural History Museum, where we found out that beetles are one of the most diverse species on the planet. For example, 1 in 3 insects are beetles and 1 in 4 animals are beetles, which means there's a lot of beetles around. We were inspired by how vast the diversity is, so we picked beetles as our project.
Overview. Beetles are in the order Coleoptera, which means sheathed wings. Sheathed wings refers to the elytra, which are hard front wings that have adapted to protect beetles' wings. Beetles have a large range of different sizes. They can range from 16 centimeters in length to 0.02 millimeters. Beetles are one of the most diverse families and can be found all over the planet. There are over 400,000 different species worldwide, 4,000 of which are found in the UK. Beetle morphology. The main defining feature of beetles are their elytra, which are hard cases which protect the wings. The elytra make up one of the 2 pairs of wings beetles have. A beetle consists of 3 main parts: the abdomen, thorax, and head. The abdomen is where you find the elytra and the wings. The thorax is where all the legs and other appendages are attached. The thorax is covered in a shield called the protonotum. The head has eyes, mandibles, and antennae. The antennae vary in shape and size depending on the beetle, but they are mainly used to detect food. The mandibles are the biting part of the mouth. They are used to cut up any food.
Beetle evolution. Beetle fossils were found back in the early Permian period, about 333 million years ago. Beetles first evolved from arthropods, which are invertebrates. Then they go down the line of hexapods, which is Greek for 6 legs. Down the line again, we've got insects, and then Neopteroda, which is winged insects. Finally, we get down to the group that Cleopatra is in, Endotheriogota, which is where the winged insects have a complete metamorphosis cycle from larva to adult. From the Permian period to Jurassic period, there were multiple lineages evolved. However, there was an increase in diversification in the Cretaceous period, about 297 million years ago. There is lots of debate as to why this is. It can also be very hard to create a perfect evolution tree because of the species richness is different. To test every beetle's genetic information separately and then separating them into families and species can be very difficult. Why are beetles so diverse? There is ongoing debate about the reason for beetle hyperdiversification. The main ones are the evolution of angiosperms, which are flowering plants that produce seeds encased in fruits, in comparison to geosperms, which are plants that produce naked seeds, which is what started to evolve in the Cretaceous period. Eventually, angiosperms took over, and now 90% of plants on the planet are angiosperms. Being such an important part of the food chain, it created an expansion in niches to be filled. This transition from geosperms to angiosperms caused the insects to adapt a more efficient way to achieve food source. This also caused geosperm plants to go extinct. Temperature rise in the Cretaceous period is also another reason beetles diversified so much. Another reason is the elytra, which is a skeletonized forewing. It has many different functions. The main ones are protection and defense from predators, thermoregulation, to absorb radiation to increase the body temperature, or to reflect it to prevent overheating. Water saving is a mechanical barrier for direct water loss. Water harvesting, which is where specifically darkling beetles capture water in the desert by fog basking. Another one is flight, which is used for finding food sources and mates. Diving or swimming. A sub-electral chamber, which has air in it, can be used for buoyancy and breathing underwater. Length of existence. Because the beetles have been around for so long, they were able to have solid lineages by the Jurassic period, which allowed them to diversify more. Low lineage extinction, mainly due to the characteristics of beetles like morphology and diet, made them very adaptable to their environment and therefore not going extinct when other species would. Multiple lineage by the Jurassic period could be another reason why the beetles were able to diversify so quickly, because they already had solid lines in place. And one of the final reasons is the range of niches. Beetles are found pretty much in any habitat around the world, so the range of niches available to them allow them to diversify so much. To support the idea of angiosperms being the main reason that beetles diversified, we could focus on these 3 different beetles: sunburst diving beetle, stag beetle, and dung beetle. The sunburst diving beetle has a carnivorous diet, which means it evolved earlier than the dung beetle and the stag beetle, which has a more herbivorous diet.
The ecological impacts of beetles. Beetles are very good bioindicators since they have a sensitivity to changing factors in their environments and a great species abundance all over the world in varying habitats. Some species are better indicators than others. Beetles are also great for the agricultural environment. Predatory beetles, such as ground beetles, help to keep pests in check. Beetles also help to keep the soil nutrient-rich, helping with the decomposition of dead animals, plants, and dung, spreading fertilization. They also help to pollinate approximately 90% of the world's flowering plants, helping with plant species abundance and diversity, as well as creating larger crop yields. However, they can also be pests, doing large amounts of damage to their environment. Beetles, such as the bark beetle, lay their eggs between the bark and wood of trees, that the larvae then eat when they hatch, which can kill a tree or even entire forests. Plant-eating beetles can also do a great amount of damage by eating leaves and roots of plants.
Families of beetles. The sunburst diving beetle is part of the large group of ground beetles, known for their dark coloring and long legs. A subgroup of ground beetles are Asalinale, which has one offspring a year. Adaptations of the sunburst diving beetle. Its body shape is oval and flat, which makes them more streamlined in water. Its hind legs are powerful and feathered, which can be used as oars. Coloration can be warning signs to predators, and flying is used mainly from pond to pond for food sources, but it's particularly important in warmer climates where the water dries up. Beetles also fly at night to avoid predation from dragonflies, so they use chemoreception, which is a chemical response to stimuli, to fly. Another adaptation is glands at the back of the head secrete noxious milky substance, which is a chemical defense against fish. Males have suction cups on their frontal limbs to stick to females and rocks. The sunburst diving beetle has a physical gill or air bubble under their wings, which is where their breathing holes are located. These can take surrounding oxygen from the environment, but eventually will get depleted, so they have to go back up to the surface to get more air. And finally, one of the last adaptations. In their larval state, sunburst diving beetles have bifocal vision, which is used to see their prey and predators. However, this vision is lost in metamorphosis into adult life.
Stag beetles. The stag beetle family have over 1,200 species with the highest diversity in Southeast Asia. They range from 30 to 75 millimeters long. Male stag beetles are typically larger than females. Males also have large extensions to their jaw that look a little bit like horns, called mandibles. They use the mandibles to fight other males to the right to mate with females. The mandibles are slightly bend resistant, allowing the males to withstand the force of the opponent's jaw or bite. Males with the largest mandibles usually win the fights, so over time sexual selection has led to larger mandibles across the population. Due to this size, it makes it very hard for the males to walk or run on the ground, so they are typically found flying around looking for mates. Stag beetles start out as larvae and spend most of their lives in this form. The larvae are typically found eating dead or rotting wood. As adults, stag beetles don't eat, they only drink water or sugary solutions. Adults depend on the energy stores made up during their larvae stage from eating the wood. Sadly, the population of stag beetles is currently declining. They also have a current status of near threatened on the European Red List.
Dung beetles. There are over 35,000 species of Scarabidae, also known as scarab beetles. The family Scarabidae can be separated into two groups: Pleurostichtae, the chafers or plant eaters, and Laparostichtae, dung beetles or scavengers. Despite what they eat, dung beetles are picky eaters, specifically seeking out the nitrogen-rich particles in dung to build proteins essential for their nutrition. Dung beetles eat, live, and breed in dung, and they do this in many ways. They can be dwellers who live in dung piles, tunnelers who dig under the dung piles, and rollers who form dung balls and roll them away from their original dung pile. The ball-rolling species, when rolling their ball, do it quickly and in a straight line, using polarization patterns to orientate their direction. Dung beetle adaptations. Dung beetles have large shovel-like heads that they use to help dig and form dung balls. The legs of dung beetles have great muscular power, as well as serrated edges to ease the process of digging and shoveling away loose materials. The legs are short on most dung beetles, except ball rollers. Roller species have longer hind legs to help with rolling, balancing, and guiding their dung balls. The strongest dung beetles can pull up to 1,141 times their own body weight. In conclusion, Coleoptera is extremely diverse, covering many habitats and fulfilling a vast number of niches across the world. Being one of 4 animals present on Earth, Beetles' ecological importance is profound, diversifying greatly during the Cretaceous period. Beetles play many important roles in our ecosystem. The world would be vastly different without them.